Wandami Bante. Good morning, everyone, and good evening for everyone in the West. Welcome to the lesson on classification of 89 Cittas. Today's session is scheduled to last 1.5 hours with 50 minutes on coursework and remaining 40 minutes on Q&A. I'm Tham. I am the meeting co-host who will be helping Bante and everyone in today's session. May we invite Bante to start the teaching, please? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sumangalo. This is auspicious time to study Abhidhamma. So let's start our study by paying homage to the Buddha, reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Okay, this is our number 4 days of my study. So in this lesson, I'm going to talk about the classification of 89 consciousness. As you know, we have already studied about the ultimate reality. Among the ultimate reality, the first types of ultimate reality is consciousness, which is called Citta in Pali. So we are going to start our study of ultimate reality from the past ultimate reality of consciousness. So in this lesson, when we are studying about the past ultimate reality of consciousness, we need to keep one thing need to keep in our mind is the characteristic of consciousness. When we call Citta or consciousness, that is the basis elements, which is known as Citta or consciousness. The characteristic of that consciousness is knowing the objects. So consciousness or Citta just do the action of knowing the objects. So if we say through the characteristic, the Citta is only one thing. It means the every types of consciousness, when we divide it into different way of classification, the different kinds of classification come into our study, but all the consciousness have the same characteristics. That is knowing the object. So we can say consciousness is one, only one thing, which knows the object, which recognizes the objects. That is the first thing we have to understand about the consciousness. Although it is only one, according to the characteristic of knowing the objects, it can be divided into different types according to accompaniment factors, Cittasika. So by way of the law of nature, the consciousness and mental factors comes together. This means they arise together, six together. So this is their nature. That's why whenever consciousness, Citta, arises, the mental factors accompany to that consciousness. So they are arising in the group. We can say that is the mental group or mental cluster. So they arise in the group and they share the same lifespan, arise together and six together, vanish together. By seeing the accompanied manifesto, we can classify the types of consciousness into different kinds. So here are some method of classification of Citta. So classification by way of planes. So we already studied about the 31 plane of existence. So consciousness can also be classified according to by way of planes. And the second type, consciousness can be classified with respect to its kind or its nature, which is called Pali in jadi. So in common things, we can classify the peoples who come from where, according to the location and according to the family types they were born. So this is what kind of people, or they are what kind of people like this. We can classify in the same way. We can make the group, or we can make the classification according to the nature of the consciousness. And the classification according to its roots. So the roots are, I will introduce the roots in this lesson. 6 types of roots. And according to these 6 types of roots, the consciousness can be classified into groups. And also accompaniment feelings. So what kind of feelings accompany to that consciousness? And then we can name and we can make a group. So this is the way how the one types of consciousness can be in different types, or can be classified into different categories. So before we continue our classification of consciousness, we need to know the worlds, the 3 types of world, loka, the satta loka. Satta loka, here satta is living beings, so loka is world. So satta loka means the world of living beings. And this, the world of living beings, refers to the living beings. So living being is nothing but the process of mentality and the process of materiality coming together. They are called beings, living beings. So if we classify the living being, we get the process of mentality and the process of materiality. Only these 2 things arising together at the same time, and they are named up living beings. So in this case, satta loka reference to their beings and also reference to the process of mentality and materialities. And another word, akasa loka. Akasa loka is defined as the physical universe. So in other words, it's called the planes of existence. We already studied 31 planes of existence. That is akasa loka. And the last one, sankhara loka, the world of formation. So that's the world of formation include all types of conditioned phenomena of mentality and materiality. So it's included within the 5 aggregates of clinging. So here we have to understand the word clinging. So that's why the aggregate was attached by the craving and round view. That is called the aggregate of clinging. That we will clarify later the word 5 aggregates of clinging. So all types of phenomena, mentality, mental phenomena, and material phenomena are called the sankhara loka. So this is the 3 types of loka. Okay, we can continue the classification by way of plane, because we already studied about the 31 plane of existence. We can connect with that lesson 2. So these 4 types of consciousness depends on the plane of existence. Maybe you can recall the classification about the plane of existence. the lowest realms, lowest classification is the Kama Vachara or Kama, 11 Kama sense spheres in English, sense sphere plane of existence. And if we go up, that is the 5 material sphere, that is called Rupa Vachara Loka, Rupa Bhumi. And then Arupa Vachara Bhumi, is 4 Arupa Vachara, realm of existence, this immaterial sphere of existence. So we have 3 categories of existence and plane of existence. But here the consciousness are 4 types. So the classification 1 to 3 comes in accordance with the classification of plane of existence. So the first one is Kama Vachara Citta. And the consciousness that have their domain, so their domain means they always move about in their place, where in the sensuous plane of existence. But not, they cannot, they are not arising only these plane of existence of sensual planes, but they can arise in the Rupa Vachara or 5 material sphere or Arupa Vachara immaterial sphere, some of them, but not all, and also not many times, only sometimes, a few times. So mostly these types of, the first types of consciousness arise in the sensual plane of existence. That's why they are named as Kama Vachara Citta. So that is sensual pure consciousness. Then the second type also have the same definition, just change the 5 material sphere as their domains, their place to move about or frequently arise, because the wa or vachara. So the first type, Kama Vachara, is the combination of Kama, the wa Kama, and avachara. So Kama can be divided into 2. The Kama, sometimes the wa Kama refers to the craving, which is the subjective sensuality. So Kama refers to craving, subjective sensuality, which can crave to the objects, which can attach to the objects. And another time, the word Kama refers to the 5 external sense objects, which is called the form, sound, smell, taste, and tangible objects. So in this way, we can understand the word Kama into 2 definitions, craving and 5 external sense objects. So Kama and avachara, here in this case, the first meaning of Kama and craving, avachara, moving about in. So the craving is running around, that's the Kama Vachara Citta. And also the Kama Vachara craving around in the sensuous plane of existence. So in this connection, we can understand the definition of Kama Vachara. In the same way, Rupa Vachara, here Rupa is the plane of existence, that is the 5 material sphere of existence. The consciousness that frequently arises in the 5 material sphere of existence is called Rupa Vachara. Sometimes they arise in the Kama Vachara realms and also Arupa Vachara realms, but mostly arise in the 5 material sphere. That's why they are named as Rupa Vachara Citta, 5 material sphere consciousness. The third one, Arupa Vachara consciousness, is they have their domain in the immaterial sphere of existence. So they mostly arise in the Arupa Vachara realms, which is called the immaterial sphere of existence. Sometimes they arise in the Kama Vachara and Arupa Vachara, but not many times. That is why they usually arise and frequently arise in the Arupa Vachara realms. Thus, they are called Arupa Vachara Citta, or immaterial sphere consciousness. The last category of consciousness in this classification is Lokuttara Citta, supramundane consciousness. So here, the word Lokuttara can be divided into two, Loka and Uttara. Loka refers to the world, and three types of world. And Uttara is beyond, going beyond, or transcended to. So that this world directly related to the meaning of Nibbana. So can refers to the Nibbana. But not only Nibbana, the consciousness, so the types of consciousness that directly accomplish to the realization of Nibbana can also be called the Lokuttara. So altogether, here in this case, because we are talking about the consciousness, and Nibbana is not consciousness, it is another category of ultimate reality. That's why Nibbana will not be included in this case. So only the consciousness will include in this case. And for the definition of Lokuttara. So find the word Citta, together with the word Citta, Lokuttara Citta. It refers to the types of consciousness that directly accomplish the realization of Nibbana. So that types of consciousness, it is known as the path consciousness, Magga Citta, and fruition consciousness, Phala Citta. Altogether 8. These 8 kinds of consciousness take Nibbana as their object when they arise. That's why we can say these are the consciousness that directly accomplish the realization of Nibbana, taking Nibbana as its object. So this is the classification according to the plane of existence. Then another classification, before we go to another classification, we need to know the karma and results, the 2 types of karma and 2 types of results. So the karma, at the beginning, we need to understand the definition and the precise meaning of the Pali word karma. The Pali word karma means the volitional activities. Volitional activities. It is a kind of mental activities. The volition is one of the 52 mental fetters. So volitional activities is the whatever activities of physical activity, verbal activities, or mental activity caused by the volition, of together with the volition. That's called the volitional activities. That is twofold. So the first one, kusala karma, and second, akusala karma. Kusala karma means the volitional activity associated with wholesome consciousness. So wholesome is kusala. Wholesome is kusala. And I will define the meaning of the word wholesome or kusala in this slide. But here, the wholesome conscious, the volitional activity associated with wholesome consciousness is called the kusala karma, and volitional activity associated with unwholesome consciousness is called akusala karma. So in this case, we can understand, we can make the conclusion about the karma. Karma is only 2, whether it is wholesome or unwholesome. Only 2 types. There's no karma which is not identified as the wholesome or unwholesome. So the karma must be identified whether it is wholesome or unwholesome, and it must be any of them. It means there's no neutral. Okay, so like the karma has 2 types. The result of karma, which is called the vipaka. The Pali word vipaka means the result of something. So Here, the result of karma is also divided into two. So kusala vipaka citta. So here in this case, we are studying about the citta. We refer to the consciousness, but there can be the vipaka. There can be the vipaka that is called the materiality, included in the materiality is the results. So, but they are not included in the vipaka citta because they are not consciousness. So here, kusala vipaka citta and akusala vipaka citta are the two types of resultants. So kusala vipaka citta refers to the resultant consciousness of wholesome karma. So these are the products of the wholesome karma. The first type of karma produces the first type of resultant consciousness. So in this way, we can understand wholesome and resultants of wholesome. And in the same way, in second way, the akusala vipaka, here also we can make the we can add the word citta. Akusala vipaka citta. So the resultant consciousness of unwholesome karma. So that is the products of the second types of karma, akusala karma. So akusala karma produce akusala vipaka consciousness, akusala vipaka citta. So in this way, we understand cause and effect relationship in the karma and its result. So wholesome produce the wholesome karma or wholesome resultant, and unwholesome karma produce unwholesome vipaka, unwholesome resultant. In this case, we get the karma and result, and also three types: wholesome, unwholesome, and resultant. So wholesome and unwholesome are causative, and vipaka are effect of these causative activities. Another category of citta also have. Next slide will be more clear, but just introduce the kiriya citta. So that is the functional consciousness. This is not included in the wholesome types or unwholesome, and also non-productive. So unproductive, they cannot produce anything. So these types of kiriya citta are out of these two classification of karma and result, not related to the karma and also not related to the vipaka. So we have to understand this is also another classification of consciousness. In this way, we will have the four types of consciousness. So here classification according to the jati comes. So four types of consciousness according to the jati. Jati is its nature. That's why we will understand according to their nature. So the first type is kusala citta. As I said, the kusala karma and kusala citta. So the volition activity based on the consciousness kusala together with the consciousness of the wholesome, they are called the kusala citta karma. So the kusala citta, akusala citta here, okay. So akusala citta is unwholesome consciousness. This is the translation. So in order to understand the meaning, what is unwholesome and what is akusala, the definition is the mentally unhealthy, and also morally blameworthy. This is called the savatsa in Pali. So this is the first part of the characteristic of unwholesomeness. Whenever unwholesome consciousness arises, and we can recognize it has the nature of mentally unwholesome, mentally unhealthy, and from the moral perspective, it is blameworthy. That is the characteristic of akusala, unwholesome. And another part of the characteristic of unwholesome is it is productive of painful result. It means that can produce the painful result. That is called in Pali dukkha vipaka. So this together with these two, coming together with these two are Savaja, Dukkha Vipaka. These are two factors of the characteristic of unwholesome consciousness. Whenever types of consciousness arise, you can check whether it is unwholesome or not. If it is unwholesome, there must be the characteristic of mentally unhealthy or morally blameworthy. And it must be productive of painful result. That is unwholesome. That's why you can identify the consciousness with these two characteristics. This is unwholesome. So that unwholesome consciousness always accompanied by any of the three unwholesome roots. So here, unwholesome roots are three: greed, hatred, or delusion. So these three will not come at the same time, but you can find any of them. So unwholesome consciousness has these roots. When you can find the root greed as it is roots, you can identify this is unwholesome. And when you observe that types of consciousness, it has that characteristic of mentally unhealthy, morally blameworthy, and productive of painful result. So hatred, delusion, the same. So this is the first type of consciousness according to the kinds of according to the nature. The second type of consciousness is akusala citta. Kusala citta, sorry. Kusala citta, it is translated as the wholesome consciousness. So when you observe the wholesome consciousness, you understand the characteristic that is the mentally healthy and morally, from moral perspective, the morally blameless. That is called anavaja in Pali, anavaja characteristic. And also that consciousness can produce the pleasant result, sukha vipaka. So you can identify any types of consciousness as kusala by this characteristic. If it is mentally healthy or morally blameless, and also can produce the pleasant results, that is called kusala. And you can identify this is wholesome consciousness. And when you follow the roots, you can find three roots: non-greed, non-hatred, or non-delusion. That is, they are the roots of wholesome consciousness. So, but in this way, we can identify the wholesome consciousness, kusala citta. And the third types of consciousness is vipaka citta. As I mentioned, the kusala and akusala, these two are the causative, and vipaka, the result of the causes of wholesome and unwholesome. So here the third type of consciousness is resultant consciousness. Result of what? Result of wholesome or result of unwholesome. That is the wholesome consciousness. This is the resultant consciousness. That's why the third type of vipaka consciousness arises through the ripening of karma. So volitional activity, it is done and wait for some time or wait for the time according to its nature to be ripened. Then when it is ripened, it's produced the result. So one of the result is the resultant consciousness. Here karma refers to the volitional action. And the last types of consciousness in this classification is kiriya citta, translated as the functional consciousness. It's neither karma nor karma result. So no karma, no karma result, but it is a kind of consciousness. It has the characteristic of knowing the objects. So that is mere activity, just the mental action. It is not included in karma or not in karma result. So it is activity, mental activity, but not capable of producing karmic result. So that types of consciousness cannot be included in the causative group because that cannot produce karmic results. In this way, we have the four categories of consciousness according to the classification of jadi. So unwholesome, wholesome, resultant, functional. So unwholesome, if we divide it, 89 consciousness into these 4 types, we get the number, the unwholesome consciousness 12, wholesome consciousness 21, and resultant consciousness 36, functional consciousness 20. In this way, the 89 consciousness is divided into 4 groups. So here, unwholesome 12 unwholesome consciousness is unwholesome karma. You can identify unwholesome karma. And wholesome 21, we can say the wholesome karma, but not all can produce the plane of existence. The 4 mega chitta just produce the fruition consciousness, the phala chitta. But anyway, we will understand that later. So here the groove. So if we make the groove into 2 from 4 classification, the last 2, resultant and functional, they are not wholesome and unwholesome. That is why we can make a groove in the another type, that is resultant consciousness and functional consciousness. Because they are not included in the wholesome and unwholesome, they are named as indeterminate, abhyagata. This is according to the classification of the Tika Matika. That's called the tribe system of classification. So in this system, all the ultimate reality are divided into 3 and named, this is what, and this is what, and this is what. So classification of Tika, so tribe, so Tika Matika, and Dhammasangani is mentioned. And in this way, we can understand wholesome, unwholesome, resultant, and function into 4. And also we can understand wholesome, unwholesome, and abhyagata. In the nature, these 2 are not set as wholesome or unwholesome. That's why they are indeterminate, abhyagata. So this is just, the later I have the chart to clarify. But here I like to introduce the classification in detail about the unwholesome, wholesome, resultant, and functional. We get the number here, and how we get that number here. I mentioned that akusala chitta included only in the sense sphere consciousness according to the type, but they can arise in other realms too, and from material sphere, 5 material sphere, and also immaterial sphere. And the akusala chitta can arise. Akusala unwholesome consciousness can arise. But in the classification, they are usually or frequently arise in the sense sphere plane of existence. That is why they are included under the classification of sense sphere consciousness. And okay, all 12 types of consciousness, sense sphere consciousness, we are trying to relate it to 2 types. So the classification under related to the plane, and the classification related to its nature. So according to its nature, the akusala, it is the name akusala come, and all types of unwholesome akusala consciousness are sense sphere according to the plane of existence. And in second types, wholesome consciousness, so divided into different category according to the plane of existence. So according to Jati, we can say that is, so the wholesome consciousness, kusala chitta, divided sense sphere wholesome and 5 material sphere wholesome, and also immaterial sphere wholesome. It means wholesome consciousness are connected to the 3 category or plane of existence. So we can find in the sense sphere also 8 types of wholesome consciousness, and 5 material sphere wholesome 5, immaterial sphere wholesome 4, and also supramundane. It is out of the plane of existence. So altogether 21 types of consciousness come in this way. And resultant consciousness also the same. It's produced by the wholesome and unwholesome. So wholesome consciousness related to all types of plane. So resultant consciousness also related to the all types of plane. But sense sphere resultant consciousness 23, because the wholesome resultant and unwholesome resultant come together, so it's much more than wholesome number, so become 23. And 5 material sphere just resultant of wholesome, that's why only 5, same as the wholesome. There's no in 5 material sphere unwholesome resultant, only wholesome resultant. That is why we get the same number. So here 5 material sphere wholesome 5, and also 5 material sphere resultant 5. In the same way, in material sphere also, that is escape from the productive of unwholesome. That's why same as the wholesome consciousness. So in material sphere wholesome 4, in the same way, in material sphere resultant also 4. Okay, so supramundane resultants are 4. So altogether 36 resultants, vipaka citta. Then the functional consciousness, sense sphere functional consciousness 11, and 5 material sphere functional consciousness 5, and immaterial sphere functional consciousness 4. And there is no supramundane functional consciousness. So in this way, we classify according to its nature, according to jati, unwholesome, wholesome, resultant, functional. We will study more about the detailed number and detailed classification in next lessons. So wholesome, unwholesome consciousness and wholesome consciousness, in this way, we will take our time in the studying of detailed classification of consciousness. So you don't need to worry. So just get the number. It's okay for this time. So another classification I'd like to introduce, that classification according to the rules. So consciousness also have their rules, accompanying rules. So these are 6 types: lobha, dosa, moha, and also alobha, adosa, amoha. So these are 6 types of rules. Depends on the rules. So we can get the name ahetuka citta. So consciousness can be classified as the ahetuka, or the second type sahetuka. Ahetuka means rootless consciousness. There is no rules. So no rules mean not related to any of 6 rules. That types of consciousness are called the ahetuka citta and rootless consciousness. Another type related to the root, any of the root, is called the sahetuka, the consciousness with roots. So it is accompanied by the roots. So this classification comes according to the roots. So when you check in the accompaniment factors of that consciousness, if you can find any of the 6, you can name that is sahetuka. If you cannot find any roots in accompaniment factor, that kind of consciousness is called ahetuka, the first type. And if you can find any of them, that types of consciousness is called sahetuka. So among the sahetuka in second types of consciousness, we can find among the accompaniment factor, if we can find only one root, it is called the eka hetuka, because eka is 1. So 1 root eka hetuka. If we can find 2 roots, that is called dvihetuka. So 2 roots consciousness, 2 rooted consciousness. And that the last one, if we can find the 3 roots among the 6, among the mental factors, and we can name that consciousness as the dvihetuka consciousness. So this is the classification according to the root. So similarly, we have another classification related to the individual. That is ahetuka pukkala. We already introduced the 12 types of individual. Among them, and the lowest 2 are ahetuka, ordinary person. So these are called ahituka because rootless individual, because their rebirth linking consciousness, which is called the patisandhi citta, is not accompanied by any of these 6 roots. That's why these persons are called ahituka pukala, rootless individual. And the others, apart from these 2, other individual, you can say the sahituka pukala, but there, in that classification of individual, we only name the tihetuka pukala, and the others are noble person according to their attainments. But we can say that tihetuka pukala also, these are individual with roots. With roots mean their rebirth linking consciousness, which is called the patisandhi citta, is accompanied by the roots. So, but their roots can be only the aloba, amoha, adosa, because the loba, dosa, moha are unwholesome mental factors. So unwholesome mental factors cannot arise together with the patisandhi consciousness, which is called reverse Lincoln consciousness. These are types of the resultants. Okay, later we will identify more and more. So there, in that case, Dihetuga, double-rooted individual and triple-rooted individual. So there's no single-rooted individual. Okay, so we come here, our chart. So here in this case, we already mentioned about the classification related to the plane of existence, classification related to the nature, jati, and also classification related to the hetu, so roots. After that, we can conclude all of them in the chart. So here, the chart of consciousness, 89. So from the beginning, let's start from the beginning of the chart. The first, the number 1, akusala, unwholesome, is 12. So we already get the number. So how it's become the 12 is loba mula, so greed-rooted 8 consciousness, and dosa mula, hatred-rooted consciousness 2, and moha mula, delusion-rooted consciousness 2. This is the classification of 12 unwholesome consciousness that basically arise in the ordinary person. So because we have the greed, hatred, and delusion, that's why the consciousness rooted in the greed, hatred, and delusion commonly arise to the Putujana and ordinary person. So this is the first types of classification. So this is included in the sense pure. So in the right side of the chart, the cell, say the karma vajara. So according to the plane of existence, this is called the unwholesome consciousness, as I mentioned in the previous slide. The karma vajara, the akusala unwholesome consciousness are included under the classification of karma vajara. There's no rupa vajara unwholesome or arupa vajara unwholesome, only the karma vajara unwholesome. Then the second types of consciousness, ahituka. So this is related to the classification according to the root. So because they don't have any roots among the accompaniment factors, that's why the consciousness are called the rootless consciousness. Yeah, in number, they are 80 in number. So if we divide it into this further classification, you come unwholesome resultant. So this is resultant, but it is the products of unwholesome cause. That's why unwholesome resultant. Akusala Vipaka 7. And the second type is rootless wholesome resultant. Here, ahituka kusala vipaka 8. These 8 types of consciousness are products of wholesome. Product of wholesome. That's why they are called the wholesome resultant. But they don't have accompanying roots. That's why they are called rootless. In order to make difference between the other types of wholesome resultant, other types of resultant here, and karma vajara resultant and rupa vajara resultant, arupa vajara resultant, they are also have another classification of another types of resultant consciousness. In order to differentiate, we need to add the word rootless, in Pali ahetuka. So the second classification of ahetuka consciousness is rootless and wholesome resultant consciousness. They are 8 in number. And the last type of ahetuka consciousness is rootless functional consciousness. Here also we need to add the word rootless because there are another types of consciousness, functional consciousness in above 3 types also. That's why in order to differentiate from them, we need to add rootless. That's why rootless functional consciousness in Pali, ahetuka kiriya citta are 3 in number. So altogether, we get the ahetuka 18 consciousness. So you don't need to worry, what are these or like this? And because we will take the different class, the akusala consciousness for 1 day and ahetuka consciousness 1 day in this way, we will study more. That's why just keep the classification in your mind. It's enough for this lesson. Okay, so another classification, number 3 classification of consciousness is the Kama Vachara Sobhana. So coming together, Kama Vachara, I already mentioned, the consciousness usually and frequently arises in the sense-pure plane of existence is called the Kama Vachara. So the new word Sobhana is introduced here. Sobhana is beautiful. Here, the left show the beautiful. The Sobhana, beautiful. Sobhana consciousness, beautiful consciousness. So here, the third type of consciousness is named as the Kamavachara Sobhana, sense pure. Kamavachara is sense pure. Sobhana is beautiful. So altogether, 24 in number. So how it's become 24 is much more easier than the previous 2. So wholesome, kusala, and resultant, vipaka, and functional kiriya. The 3 types. Each of them has the 8 in number. That's why it becomes altogether 24. So wholesome produces the resultant, but functional is mental activities, but is unproductive. It cannot produce. So this, the last type, kriya, different from wholesome because it cannot produce. And different from vipaka because it is not the products of wholesome. So we have the 3 categories in Kama Vachara Sobhana, sense pure, beautiful consciousness. Then we can continue to number 4, Rupa Vachara. Okay, so the Kama Vachara consciousness, here all sense pure, beautiful usually arise, mostly arise in this sense pure plane of existence, 11 sense pure plane of existence. Okay, number 4 types of Rupa Vachara consciousness. This is translated as 5 material pure consciousness, 15 in number. So this is also easy to classify the causative, the wholesome, 5, and resultant also same as 5, and kiriya, functional. This is the third category, also 5. In this way, we can understand Rupa Vachara, 5 material sphere consciousness of 15. And the number 5 classification, Arupa Vachara, translated as immaterial sphere. So 12 in number, divided into 3 categories. Each of them has the 4. So wholesome, Arupa Vachara Kusala, or wholesome immaterial sphere consciousness, number 4. And Vipaka number 4 and Kriya number 4. Then the last category of Lokuttara, supramundane 8. So it has only 2 category of path and fruition. So path, Magga 4 and Phala, fruition 4. Altogether 8 Lokuttara Citta. In this way, we can get the 89 consciousness according to the classification of their nature and their roots, like this, their plane of existence. So here we need to understand the lowest two. The first, akusala and ahituka, are collectively called asobana citta. Asobana citta, because they are not beautiful. Sobana is beautiful. The word art has the negative meaning. So asobana means not beautiful. So not beautiful means the unwholesome consciousness are not beautiful because they are rooted in greed, hatred, and delusion, unwholesome mental factors. That is why that consciousness are regarded as not beautiful consciousness. And ahituka consciousness, although they are not rooted in lobha, dosa, moha, greed, hatred, and delusion, that they don't have any roots. Like this, they are like a floating plants in the water, no roots. It's not stable. That's why these ahituka, rootless consciousness, are also regarded as the not beautiful consciousness, asobana consciousness. Now, in number, altogether, 12 unwholesome and 18 rootless becomes the 30 in numbers. Asobana consciousness, asobana citta, not beautiful consciousness. So in this line, we can, here in this column, we can understand the 54 sense pure consciousness. So it includes three types, unwholesome, rootless, and sense pure beautiful, 24. So unwholesome 12, rootless 18, and sense pure beautiful 24 becomes the 54 Kama Vachara Citta, or sense pure consciousness, because they usually arise or frequently arise in the sense pure realms of existence, Kama Vachara. And also the number 4 and number 5, Rupa Vachara, 5 material sphere consciousness 15, and Arupa Vachara, immaterial sphere consciousness 12, together 27 consciousness are collectively called Mahakata consciousness. So Mahakata means sublime or sublime consciousness. So it's become in the higher ranks. Without the meditation practice, they cannot arise. So they need specific condition to become sublime. So they are regarded as the sublime consciousness. So together, the 54 sense pure consciousness and 27 sublime consciousness coming together become the Lokiya Citta. Lokiya means mundane. So only the category of supramundane left. So if we roughly classify consciousness, we get the classification only two. The one is supramundane and another type is mundane. So here in this column, the 5 categories are included under the title of Lokiya Citta, mundane consciousness. So we get the supramundane and mundane. So supramundane 8 and mundane consciousness 81. It becomes the 89 consciousness. In this way, we can understand the consciousness or classification of consciousness. So if you select out, if you are interested in the classification to make by yourself, and you can classify according to the jadi in this chart. So you can check according to jadi means wholesome, unwholesome, resultant, and functional, 4 categories. So you can select out from this chart. So the first class or 12 unwholesome already. You get the 12, the first class. And what are the 21 wholesome consciousness? You can select. So in second type, ahituka, there's no wholesome consciousness because this is the second type also resultants, not wholesome. That's why we can skip. So we can select the wholesome consciousness in the third category. Here, number 8, and here in number 4, we get the 5. So 8, 5, And here in Arupa Vachara, we get 4. So 8, 5, 4 becomes 17. And the mega also wholesome. So wholesome nature, that's why including mega, supramundane, wholesome consciousness. It becomes 21 wholesome consciousness. You can select from this chart. And in the same way, vipaka, you can identify in this 23 vipaka of sense sphere in this chart. And also altogether 36. So altogether 36 resultant consciousness. Here the number, all the number can be identified in the chart. So we can select vipaka resultant consciousness in the charts. Here the first classification, unwholesome resultant. But although whether it is unwholesome or wholesome, we can identify as the resultant. Unwholesome resultant or wholesome resultant, both of them are included under the classification of resultants. That is why we get then number 7 in the Ahituka first, and here also resultants. So among the 18 Ahituka, there are 15 resultant consciousness. So we get the resultant consciousness for 15, and together with 8 of this 8 of this vipaka, it's become the 23 since pure consciousness. Then when we add more resultant of 5 material sphere, immaterial sphere, it becomes the 32. And together with the Palak fruition consciousness, which is called the supramundane resultant consciousness. So altogether 36 vipaka consciousness you can select from this chart. And also Kriya Chitta, altogether 20 Kriya Chitta, functional consciousness. So there's no in Akusala, only it starts from the rootless consciousness, rootless functional 3, and Kriya. So since pure beautiful has the functional 3, altogether 11, and here 5, and Kriya functional 4. This becomes the 20. So there is no functional consciousness in the supramundane. In this way, we can identify the classification of consciousness according to its nature in this chart. And also here only Ahituka, only 18. So if you take off 18 among the 89, there will be 71 consciousness. 71 consciousness are Sahituka. So you can identify Ahituka and Sahituka. So Ahituka 18 and Sahituka with roots become 71, because the rest, all including Akusala or Kamavachara Sobana, Rupavachara Sobana, Arupavachara Sobana, Lakutara are Sahituka, because here the Ahituka is selected out already. In this way, the classification of according to the Hetu also identified by this chart and according to the plane of existence. So here Kamavachara, the Kama realms, and here Rupavachara according to the Rupa realms, Arupavachara according to the Arupa realms. So Lakotara is out of the plane of existence, because Lakotara itself is go beyond the world, go beyond the plane of existence. So in this way, we can understand the classification of 89 types of consciousness. Here we need to understand the usage of the Mahagata. Here I say the Mahagata in the footnote. Here 15 5 material sphere consciousness and 12 immaterial sphere consciousness are collectively called Mahagata Chitta. It's 27 sublime, lofty, or exalted consciousness, because free from hindrances. So through the practice of concentration meditation or samatha meditation, the meditator suppress the hindrances, and then he attained the Rupavachara. It is the absorption state of concentration, which is known as the jhana. So Rupa Vachara Jhana and Arupa Vachara Jhana, they are called Mahakata Chitta, sublime consciousness. Okay, for this lesson, it is enough to explain about the classification of 89 types of consciousness. But we will classify more and more in the following classes in detail, one after another. Okay, I'm going to stop here my explanation. So we will continue to the question and answer session.
Thank you, Bhante, very much for your teaching today.
Okay.
May Bhante lead us in making aspiration and sharing of merits, please.
Okay. Good. Okay. So please repeat after me. So imina punya kamina mami bala samagamo sadam samagamo hodu yawa nibbana patiyam idami punyam asawakaya waham hodu idami punyam nibbana sapachayo hodu mama punya bhagam Sabha satanam bhajimi esabe samam punya bhagam lavandu sadhu sadhu sadhu. Okay, may all be happy and healthy in your life.
Thank you, Bhante.